This is the official post-event press conference for EFC 101 from the EFC Performance Institute, Johannesburg, South Africa.
Well, that's about the wildest way you can kick off 2023. What an incredible fight card. Every single one of the athletes left it all in there. I'm so proud to have been able to be here and watch that. I'm going to move on to the performance bonuses, and I'm sure everybody's eager to hear who got them, because there's so many candidates that we had to go through. The performance bonuses, and we're going to split these performance bonuses up. Instead of 2, we're going to have 4. We're going to give performance bonuses to Elvis Ngwala and Kevin Pretorius, who put on a hell of a fight at lightweight. We're going to give a performance bonus to Alice Ardelean and Jess Mouneimne for that incredible strawweight fight. And fight of the night goes to Vince Bembe and Sizwe Mnakati. And they definitely left it all in there. Let's pass over to media.
I know Gareth wants to have a word with the champions first, but I just want to clear something up with Jess. I think it's go down as a doctor's stoppage. We know you've got an absolute heart of a lion, and if you could, you would have come out for all 5 rounds. But we didn't get a chance to speak to you, so I just want to give you the mic and talk about the stoppage from your point of view and what happened in that first round.
Yeah, I couldn't see anything. That's what happened. Yeah, it was a great competitive first round. I thought, obviously, the game plan was always going to be to take it into the later rounds. But yeah, I got caught with an elbow. The blood was running into my eye. I couldn't see anything. It's the first time I've experienced that as well. So I was just like lying on my back, thinking like, how am I going to actually get through this if I can't see anything? Yeah, it sucks. But as somebody that's only fought 3 professional fights, it's a great experience, and I'll learn and grow from it, and I'll be back.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. I'm just going to fly across the table. We'll start with Vince. Vince, we saw a very different side to you tonight. Some good, clean combinations. The speed of them was exceptional, and the targeting was really good. You worked really well at range. There's been good improvement in the stand-up portion of your game. Is that something you've been working really hard on?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. Because from my previous fights, I was like, when I look at myself, I'm like, oh, that sucks. So I need to work on it, as I did now, and it gave a good enough a fight.
Yeah, you and Sizwe put a fantastic show on tonight, so well done. My man Nicholas, always with the biggest smile coming in there. So confident in the way that you go about your work. I'm finding it hard to go through the roster to see anybody that can match you in every department. I mean, what are you thinking about? Where's the mind at? You know, you're still young in your career in terms of how many fights you've had. Do you take the leap now, or do you continue to stay here and gain experience?
Oh man, yeah, I would love to stay and gain the experience, you know, just like that. Like I said, for now, I don't see anyone who can beat me in my division. Maybe if you go outside America, Russia, and get some Russians to come and wrestle me. But I'm sure, I'm confident that for now, there is nobody that is going to take this bout, and I'm keeping it for long, man.
Questions for Sizwe. Sizwe, you seemed very disappointed with the decision. Looking back on it now, what do you think of the judge's call? And just talk us through the fight from your perspective.
For me, I did my best. I can't change what the judge is saying. Just every day, every minute of his day. Wasn't my day today, was his day today.
Alice, tonight was an exceptionally good performance. Super and aggressive in your approach to the fights. You looked at one stage that you were sucking a bit of air. We know the altitude. You've obviously been here before. What was going through your mind at that time? You know, Jess she was still in the fight. She was still working. She was still looking for opportunities. Do you feel you could have held out in the later rounds?
Well, I believe so, because me as a fighter, I am more like, my first round is the worst round, and I think if you watch all my fights, you can see that my first round, I'm like, very, like, the first round is just not my round usually, but as far as the fight goes, like I'm getting better, and my gas tank is really really high. Like I can go for, because we do like 10 to 12 rounds of sparring every two days a week, so I have gas, but I'm also surprised that I finished the fight, and I wish her speed recovery.
Obviously, a big moment for both of you in terms of competing for a belt. We all know that a belt is a very different environment to a 3-round fight. 4 years ago, you were in South Africa. I had the pleasure of training you. I must say that in terms of your ability to learn and grasp, your improvement over that period of time was exceptional. And you obviously fell short. There was unfortunate circumstances that drew you away from that title shot. You've got it again. You won the belt. How does that feel after such a long period?
It feels amazing to be back. It feels like home. And like I said in my previous interview, everything happens for a reason. I've been pulled out of the show, but I'm not sad because I came back. I'm fighting in the actual show. I'm really happy, grateful to be here. And yeah, I enjoyed my time back then, 4 years ago, I think, on the Fighter Season 2. It was such a unique experience. Anyways, yeah. So I'm really happy to be back, and I'm glad that I've been invited, and I won the belt as well. It's so big for me and for my team. Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for this. Like, I'm super grateful.
That's questions for Johannes. Johannes, just talk about that progression, that 8 months that you were away for, just reassessing, changing camps. Tell us how much has changed for you and how the progression in your ground game and your overall skill set is going to take you forward in the EFC.
Okay, so first of all, the layoff I had, I never really, I wasn't active, but I never stopped training. So I think my opponent misjudged that, and I think he saw the whole thing wrong. Yeah, look, I train every day. This is what I do on a weekly basis, and that's it. We come here and we perform.
Jess, it's still just 3 fights in the EFC for you. Your first 2 wins were truly spectacular finishes. I just want to know, for all the fans out there, particularly we're talking about the growth of women's MMA, and you've been forefront of that here in the EFC, that we're going to see more of you, and this really is just a small stumbling block in the progression that we expect from you in the future.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm not going anywhere just because I got a little cut in the eye. It's not how the fight was meant to go, obviously. I would have preferred her to knock me out or, choke me unconscious for something to get stopped because of blood in the eye. It just sucks. But at the end of the day, and this is not taking anything away from Alice, at the end of the day, if I had won this fight, it would have been massive because of my small experience and her large experience. As a champ beating somebody that had only at that stage had 2 professional fights, I'd like to see what she's still got when she defends her belt, and I'd love to have another go at it down the line when I've got more experience.
Question for Jess. You put on a really hard round there. It was a gruesome round. It was a tough round, and well done to you, even though you lost. Can you tell us about the cuts? Did you know when you got cut? Did you know the fight was going to end when that round ended?
No, so I didn't feel the cut. I saw blood, and I remember thinking, oh, I wonder whose blood that is. And then when my eyes were completely, I couldn't see, I was like, okay, cool. Either she's bleeding into me or I'm bleeding. So I wasn't really sure who got cut. I didn't feel anything. But it's quite a weird experience, trying to grapple blind. So that was interesting. I don't think I answered your question, though. I don't know what it was now.
Did you know, well, I guess you didn't know it was your cut. When did you realize that it was your blood?
The fight was going to get stopped. You asked me that. So no, I went into the corner between rounds thinking that we were going to go out for the second round. The doctor was supposed to intervene and stop the cut. He kept pushing and putting pressure on my nose. Everybody kept saying, well, your nose is broken. I'm like, guys, my nose is fine, just stop the cut. And obviously we weren't able to do that in time.
Can you give us some what happened in the corner from the referee said corners out? Do you remember?
Say that again.
Do you remember what happened in the corner? Because the referee stopped, he called the second round to start,
Yeah.
and
We
your
were-
corners were still in the.
We were told to stay. So I think by that point, the doctor had decided that the cut was not able to be stopped. So we were told, round is on, but you guys sit. So we sat.
Was it your choice to stop the fight?
No, never. Of course not. I was ready to go. Whatever the decision was, to be honest, I think the cut man got in there too slowly. Doctor got there, and the decision was just that the cut wasn't able to be stopped, or that the blood was going to run into my eye again, or whatever the case is. But I was ready to go. I was fresh. I don't even think I broke a real sweat, to be honest. So we prepared for long rounds. It was a great first round. It was competitive, in my opinion. I'll have to watch it again. And I'm disappointed that I didn't get to take it into the later rounds like we had planned. So we'll run it back.
And have you had stitches, or have you just got a plaster on?
Yeah, just a little boo-boo. Yeah, I had a couple of stitches. It was a proper cut that couldn't get stopped. I mean, what do you think?
I think it's worse than anything I've had.
Probably.
Graham, what do you do with people with such outstanding talent? Say, for example, like Nicholas Wende and like Alice, as a matchmaker, which is just our first event of the year, and it looks like going forward with those kind of performances, first round finishes all the time, as a matchmaker, how do you satisfy them in terms of keeping them in the EFC?
I don't think it's our job to keep them in the EFC. It's to keep them active. That's the job. So essentially, we will do that. We have consistently done that with all of our champions until they go over to the UFC, which is kind of what we want. So it's the fights that are going to get them to the UFC. That's the most important thing in my eyes. And I think Nick's right there, man. He's knocking on that door. And Musa Sitwape wants to fight Nick. I would still like to see that fight happen. We marketed it, we promoted it, both the guys were behind it. When the fight fell apart, I said to Nick, look, we can shift this along. He said, I'm in camp, find me a replacement, let's do this. So I had to honor that with him. And that goes to exactly what we're saying. We will always find a fight for our champions. He got his fight, but I'd love to see it happen. And we just had a discussion right now, and I said, I would love to send through something to the UFC and say, you know, this guy's ready, he's primed, let's make it happen. Alice, pretty much the same thing. I mean, I've got no say in what happens with regards to Alice going to other promotions and fighting in the UFC. I mean, I'd love that for her. Look at Manon. So they were in the same show together. And I mean, can you imagine her and Manon going, you know, toe-to-toe? Who would have won that fight? So, I mean, Manon's ranked, what, top 10 in the UFC, and Alice could well be up there.
Graham, I think we had an awesome start to the year. I mean, we had some super wars in there. We had some good finishes, clinical finishes, both on the ground and on the feet. Sets a good bar for the rest of the year. How do we match that? I mean, what does the future look like? What fights have you got in mind? How do you make it more exciting? Are we going to see more internationals on the cards? Are we going to see more women on the cards? Obviously, we saw tonight they're as tough as anything, and they're willing to go a lot deeper than I think most guy fighters would. Yeah, I mean, where do you see EFC in the next 6 months?
You know, I'm eating my words because like a decade ago, I was looking at the women's divisions with like no hope, thinking that there would be nothing. And now they're probably the most sought after fights, the fights that I look forward to the most, because I think the ladies put a lot in. You know, they put a lot in. They're fighting against a lot of odds in the gym. And a lot of things that they need to get through from a fitness perspective, and like it's now geared for their utter success. So we were supposed to have 2 fights on this card. There were 2 women fights. We're gonna shift that fight out that we were supposed to have between Crystal and Juliet Utka to the next fight card. So there'll be another 2 fights on that fight card. We are aggressive in trying to get ladies divisions really healthy and really strong, so that Alice has people to fight against. I mean, she's walking in some awesome shoes at the moment. Karolina Wojcik, who held this belt, was an absolute machine. She won that belt against Cheyenne Flismus, who went to the UFC. I mean, it's like we leave a legacy of great athletes when they fight for titles in this organization. It's what it does. I don't know if I answered your question. Happy.
Cheeky question. It's a bit of a personal one for Vince Bembe. Vince, do you get tired of being underrated? I think you're one of the most sparkling talents we have on the roster, particularly in that division. But I think people are always overlooking you, and I don't understand why. Why do you think that is?
I cannot change what people think or what they look at me like. So that's all I can say on that part.
I think it's time that we really lock down something in the form of a title for Vince. You know, he's been staring down that barrel for a while. And, you know, that featherweight division, Igor's got some offers internationally. So there's a big opening there in that division, and it's a huge division for our organization. So I'd love to see him getting up there and getting into contention. All right, I just want to make a special mention to some of the athletes. I don't think people really understand how good the fights were tonight. A lot of people, you missed the prelim bouts. Some of the guys that stood out for me, let me just say, Nathan Kamana, you're an absolute machine. He took that fight and he was, you know, it was shifted along from a bantamweight fight to a catchweight fight, and then his opponent missed by 1.5 kilos past that catchweight, and he still came around here and turned it on. So I just want to give a special mention to him. Also, I want to give a special mention to the man sitting over here, Janos Rudolph. He put in a hell of a fight. Shadrach and Sua. I mean, who's going to fight that guy at middleweight? And we've got, you asked about talent, Gareth. That's actually where you asked. One of the questions you gave us was, what about the talent? EFC 102 is probably one of the crown jewels of this year, 2023. And it's only the second event of this year. If you go through that card, almost every fight for the first, the top of the 8 fights could go on the main card. They are huge fights. We're going to be putting that out this week and announcing the full fight card. But we're doing so much in terms of growing talent in this organization. So much. All right. Conclude. Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us at EFC 101 to kick off the year. What a hell of a year it's going to be. Join us again for EFC 102, the 13th of April. Zico Makengela defending his title finally against Mark Hume. Guys, that is going to be huge. What a fight card we have ahead of it. I mustn't end. Oh, gosh. I'll be talking about it the whole day. But we've got Dricus du Plessis fighting Derek Brunson. He's top 10 ranked in the UFC. If he beats Derek Brunson, he'll be top 5. He is an absolute national treasure. So all of you need to get engaged. Be watching that fight. It's going to be huge. Happy. Awesome. Thank you very much for joining us. Look forward to seeing you 13th of April.
In April 2022, the DRC's Zico Makengela shocked the world to take the EFC welterweight title by knocking out the favorite, Martin van Staden. Now, almost a year to the day later, he defends it for the very first time against the equally dangerous and wily veteran Mark Hume, who makes his hexagon return after 6 years. EFC 102, Thursday the 13th April, Johannesburg. Broadcast and ticket details at EFCworldwide.com.